Unfiltered live. It's the live version of the Life Money Balance podcast. So we're going to kick it off. We got to talk about the markets, talk about the economy, inflation, and then we have a special guest, my pops, retirement chops with pops. Here we go. All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. That's our magical intro. That's our magical intro. Welcome back, y'all. This is the live version of the Life Money Balance podcast. This is the new show that we've had for 2025. This is the Wealth Talk Unfiltered, where we talk real talk without the nonsense, without the BS. We're going to come to you straight real. If you want some more lessons, like the financial education lessons with a little bit more button up feel, we release two of those a week. So subscribe to the channel so you will not miss any of those. We have the shorts as well. Also, subscribe to the Life Money Balance podcast or the blog so you can get more insights. Do all that, and we can help you on your journey. Those are free resources, y'all. Those are gems, right? So make sure you get those. All right. So I'm coming to you from across the globe. We're a worldwide firm, worldwide podcast, and I'm in Saudi Arabia right now. So we're always, no matter where we are in the world, we're coming right to you. We're going to talk about the market, the stock surge, y'all, because it is going up right now. And now, just a few months ago, we had a hiccup in the market to where the market was reacting to tariffs, and we have some unfortunate geopolitical events going on between in the Middle East, Iran and Israel going on. So what is that doing to disrupt economic policy that affects your investments in your household? So we'll chop up about the market first, then we'll talk about some economic data and the big beautiful bill and what that means to taxes and your cash flows and how you can go about your tax plan. And then we'll welcome in my pops, retirement pops with chops at the bottom of the hour and carry him on. That's going to be entertaining. So be sure you stick with that. All right. So let's get started. The market right now, it's up 6%, but we got to ask ourselves, is this stock surge? Is it real? Right? Is it real? So what are we talking about? Up 6%. We had a correction about 3-4 months ago, which a crash is 20%, a correction is 10%, and we were in between that. We're knocking on 20%. Now the market's performing quite well over the last couple of months. But the thing to ask yourself is it real? What do we do? And just like we talk about all the time, is like you're going to be buying at highs and lows, right? Across, if you do consistently contribute to your investment portfolios, not reacting too much when the market is high, and then also when the market is low, right? It's sticking to your plan. There's also opportunity that you can always take advantage of. If you got cash on the sideline, you want to take a little bit more risk and buy the dips. You've been put money to work. All right. Sitting on cash all the time, depending on what your situation is not always good. If you buckets of cash, right? When you're talking about 20-30% of your portfolio sitting in cash, that's not doing you any good. Right. So those corrections and crashes, opportunistic. What about market highs? People are fearing and they're saying the opposite right now, which is, oh, I got a lot of cash on the sidelines. I don't want to buy the market when it's running hot. Right now the market is trading at a high valuation, so they call it price earnings multiple. So you're talking about 21 times what it's worth. That's rich. That's a rich high right there. Average multiples are anywhere between 14 and 16, right? So anywhere in this range. So when people say that the market is rich right now, it means it's expensive. So folks don't like buying at the top, don't like selling at the bottom or buying at the top. and we've had new highs. So that's just a headline that you've read this week, which is the market is at new highs. And what do you do during those times? There's FOMO of missing the with FOMO is fear of missing out on the dips, and then there's also fear of missing out when markets are high, or meaning, well, if I buy in at this particular time and the market dips right after, then shit, I'm going to regret buying in at the top, right? And this is why a consistent investing pattern over time works, because you're averaging out your costs over time. What there's been, oh my gosh, every year there's new highs, right? Yeah, sometimes in a whole year that the market is not doing well, obviously you're not going to reach a high. But in the last 10 years, there have been more than 10 highs every year over the last decade. So you get a new high, then that's an announcement. Then you get a new high, that's an announcement. You get another new high, that's an announcement. It's kind of like chocolate, where you hear about chocolate and alcohol, or any type of in the middle, kind of like sin food or tax with sin food or tax or candy, right? You're like, okay, well, how's it doing for my health? Well, every year, every month, it's like, oh well, chocolate's not good for you, but then chocolate's good for you. Or alcohol is bad for you. Then in moderation, alcohol is good for you. What is it, right? It's always ever changing. It's the same thing with market highs. You'll have 4, 5, 10 of those in one year. So it's really not news about market highs. What it does allow us to do is to look into the detail and see if what's supporting the market long term. So what is it like for the rest of the year? What is it like for the outlook look for 2 or 3 or 5? What type of adjustments or pivots do I need to make, or strategies to my changes do I need to make to my investment strategy? Here's another tip, which is after market highs, right? After a new market high, the forward 12 months return on the market tends to be about 13%. So what does that mean? Again, I'll say that again. Once a market high has been established, on average, the next 12 months tend to return about 13%. That's on average, and that stat is over time, 10 years, 15 years of what we're as far as the data is concerned, right? So the question is, what happens to the market after market highs? Does it crash back down, or does it go back up? We don't know. I mean, we don't know that. That said, historically, after market highs, in general, the economy, if there's repeated market highs happen consecutively in a year, then that signals just a little bit, without any unknowns about the economy or the market that may come up, which they always do. If the information continues like it is, like the data, and we'll get to some of that, the stat is saying that if the market is experiencing highs, a few times in a year, then the economy must have some underlying data to support that, and not given any surprises or shocks, which there always can be. You just simply don't know. Like, we didn't even know what the fucking tariffs were coming out a couple of months ago. We didn't know about potential wars. We didn't know any about any of this, right? However, if none of that comes up, on average, historically, you may miss out on the next high of the year. If you have, again, cash sitting on the sideline without it doing nothing. So you can have cash sit on the sideline during crashes and where you're not buying at low points, and you can have crashes, or you can have cash sitting on the sideline when the market is high and you're missing out on the next high. So what that says is really having a consistent investing pattern over time takes the behavior out and the emotion out of thinking, is this a new high? What about the low? What's going to happen next? Looking at your portfolio, right? It's more about what the economy, the economic data is, the sentiment, the health of policies coming out. What is that overall macro environment like? That the high, the high point looking at uh, comparative to the short term. If the overall, macro environment seems positive, unemployment, housing, you know, the inflation, if all those sometimes they're historical, also forward-looking data we can look at. If you take a look at historical data or backward-looking data points and then forward-looking data points, and in general, those seem to shape up and signal, okay, the economy's doing pretty good. We don't have any uh, some shocks quite yet. Then let's keep investing. Now, if there's some instability in the market and or the economy, and like an uncertainty, all right, then there those are headlines, right? Right. Let me tell you a little bit more about the S&P right now. Nvidia during the crash a few months ago, everybody's talking about Nvidia, and then crypto, right? Well, Nvidia had a it had a crash during the correction a few months ago, and it fell off the table because they underreported on well, they met earnings, but their forecast didn't look all that hot because of the uncertainty with the tariffs, right? So, and then some companies didn't even report data because of the tariff situation a few months ago. All right, now Nvidia reports and they're knocking it out of the park again, right? So the S&P is up 6%. Nvidia is knocking it out of the park again in double digits, and 30% of the S&P, 30% of the S&P, y'all, is Amazon, Netflix. So it's the Magnificent Seven, right? And you have Nvidia. So when you are investing and you want to pick up, you want to have a diversified portfolio. And folks say, "Well, I want more tech." Well, you can. If you're in the tech sector, you may have tech at your job, right? So you have company stock. If you add in more tech on top of the 30% that tech represents in the S&P, then you're overloaded in there. You're overweight, and then you have you're decreasing your diversification, not increasing it. That said, there's some opportunities on the table. Yeah, you want to look at buying some things that are on sale. Fantastic, but overweighting, stacking sectors and stacking weight all in one doesn't give rise to a diversified portfolio over time. Now the S&P is up 6%, somewhere around there this year, year to date. Now international is doing anywhere between 12 and 15, 16%. So depending on what type of fund that you have. So international is making a comeback, kind of like LL Cool J, right? Don't call it a comeback. So it's making a comeback from kind of like a quote unquote lost decade where international was not doing so well compared to the S&P 500. And S&P 500 knocking it out. So everybody was like, well, S&P and chill, and that's global, and that's also globally diversified because you're pulling your money from companies that have business all over the place, which is not necessarily true. Okay. Yes, they're doing that, but international investment direct through an international fund is different than investing in the S&P. Is more international companies in those funds. You have more direct closeness to the policies that are going on in that country, the currency trades that are going in that country. So investing directly through like a ETF or something to this effect that says international in the top in the title, whether it be a large cap, small cap, something to this effect, right? You're getting direct exposure to those regions as far as international, which is outside the U.S. All right. So it's not too late. It's not too late. When we're talking about what's going on in the market, you're really not supposed to be checking your portfolios anyway every damn day, right? That'll make you sick. with either FOMO, leaving cash on the table from market lows, and or cash on the table for market highs, and you miss out on all this shit, and and you're not staying invested on the regular. So it's fun to talk about. All right, it's fun to talk about and keeping you up to speed on what's what. That said, keeping a investment policy for your own portfolio is the way to go. All right. So uh, let's talk about some economic data right now. What's when I told you about the overall outlook. So we had some data points released this week about the overall strength of the economy. So when we ask, is the surge real? All right, I just gave you some points about highs and lows and new market highs and all that. But what are we looking at the overall economy? So job reports right now, they're pretty steady. Okay, so right now you're talking about unemployment's resting around 4%, somewhere in that range. Also, and also coming down, it's not going up. So that's key. So employment is not going up. Um, Now we've had some jobs added every month. That's been pretty steady. Okay, and also wage growth year over year is about 4%. Relatively, it's up year over year, but as far as the last quarter is concerned, it's been relatively flat. But what it tells you is that companies are starting to, with some uncertainty out of the way, but also as backward looking. But over year, wages are increasing a little bit. Inflation is cooling the other way. So as your money is growing at your corporate firms, then or in your pockets, and inflation is cooling around 2.5% right now. That's where inflation is sitting in 2% year over year. It's not Inflation is not 4, it's not 5, it's not 10, it's not 15. It was coming down during the previous administration already. Even when the former president left the office, it was already under 4, closer to 3 anyway. So it was been trending down off of COVID highs. Okay. Now it's trending lower, even more. So that said, we're still experiencing the COVID prices. All right, they have adjusted down, but they ramped up first, then they came back down. So people are still anchored in pre-COVID prices, whether it be housing, food, energy, all of this, right? And even though inflation's cooling, inflation is cooling from a different starting point. It's cooling from pre-COVID. Okay. Those prices are going up and they're staying up, and then they come down from there. Right. And people are still feeling it in the pocketbooks, whether you're high income or income challenge, either way. Right. Prices of everything is still high, but at least for the last several years, we're not seeing inflation on top of the COVID price increases. They're coming down and adjusted, and inflation is staying somewhat level. Okay, so that outlook, Fed policy has been, as far as interest rates are concerned, they're high in the mortgage market. I mean, right now we have a Fed rate that's considered high by some who've been holding steady for a while after all the increases over the last couple of years. And people are asking, well, now that the economy in of itself is improving without shocks, y'all, these tariffs and these unnecessary wars and all this type of stuff, was premeditated shocks, then the economy it could continue with some sort of certainty versus uncertainty that was in the previous administration, and also carrying over to now without the shocks. Then there would be a little bit grounds for saying that this momentum upwards in the market can continue. It may not be as steep of a climb up, because we were coming off bottoms. Remember, just a few more months ago, we were coming off bottoms, and people were saying, "I'm going all the cash, and it's going to hell," and all this other stuff. Right? Yes, it warranted that then because of all the uncertainty, and there still must be uncertainty because we don't know. We, meaning the country or the world, don't know when the next Twitter shock is going to come, from some premeditated or unknown event shock. We don't know this. But taking the economy at what it is at its level, it's fairly decent, but it's very the foundation is kind of you know rocky a little bit. It's not solid. We don't know. We have to let things ride for a little while before we can say, oh, the whole economy is a paper right now. It's going to keep shooting up, right? It may momentum may say go up a little bit, um, but are there like guarantees right now to say that this could continue forever and ever? Not forever and ever, but for the next at the rate it is. It's kind of like coming off the bottom too. It's just wait and see. So we just need a little bit more minimum without headline shock, political risk shock, and all of this in order to be steady as she goes. The thing about it is, it's if you have an investment plan that works for you, and taking account your risk tolerance and your risk capacity and all that, it's stay invested rhythmically, right? Consistency, right? In highs and low periods, so you won't have FOMO. So right now the job market is steady, cooling just a little bit. Inflation is slower down, right? And right now, the bond market is reflecting different level of confidence than it was a few months ago when interest rates were on bonds were reflecting a lot of future and near term risk for that matter. Now in the yield curves, they've tempered a little bit, and that signals that there's somewhat a little near term and long term confidence. All depends on what we're going to talk about next, which is the big beautiful bill, right? The BBB. Um, oh man! So right now the Senate passed the BBB, right? Big beautiful bill by one vote, with the vice president casting the tiebreaker. This is obviously President Trump terminology by the name in of itself. It's like blue skies, the sun. I created the sun. I created blue sky. It's going to be beautiful. That type of thing, right? So don't we know where the name came from? That said, there's a lot of tax policy in here, a lot of public good policy in here. Public good policy, it doesn't sit well with a whole bunch of folks. So now it's going back to the House, and we're going to see where the trade-offs are. The president wants a vote on the bill by the July 4th holiday, U.S. But that may or may not happen. There's a lot going on right now, and there's so much in the bill. I think it's 940 pages long, and there's you have politicians, congressmen, and women, beating the drum for hopefully for the support of the poor a little bit, so we just don't leave them abandoned in exchange of the tax cuts proposals on the rich. Medicaid is taking a significant hit. The bill itself is projected to add, trillions of dollars to the deficit over 10 years. So that goes into what the world thinks of the overall economic situation of the U.S. So a lot of this is being built out in public, and if some of these aspects start to shake through the market, and we start seeing the tax policy being changed, and not much confidence in the overall budget of the U.S., then, as we were just talking about the surge, right? We could also be talking about a correction. We could be, but we'll see. You got to wait until the policy matters, y'all. Policy matters. So we gotta just like geopolitical risk and a bunch of other factors that we just got through naming down, right? Um, there's some things in the bill. Student loans, so student loan credits from your employer. I guess 5250, keeping that increased standard deduction, which is 29,000 for couples and 14,100 for individuals, keeping that higher because without the bill, there's a lot of tax provisions for the rich, right? Uh, and for the middle class that could be set to expire. Small businesses, right? Small businesses have been getting advantage of taking advantage of a tax provision called qualified business income. That's what we do, and we help our small businesses here at Concurrent take advantage of that with sound tax planning. That's expected to sunset. Estate planning, lifetime exemptions are very high right now. So most people, they, they don't have $13 million liquid uh, asset estate assets, right? You can give away 26 million if you combine with a married couple, right, without being exposed to a federal estate tax. All of these, the tax cuts and job act passed in 2017, all those are going to sunset without a bill being passed here with the big beautiful bill, right? So you got QBI at 20%. You've got small business stock set to expire as well. Uh, and the bill is trying to increase that much. So taking advantage for those founders out there, you tech founders and uh, founders of small businesses for exit plans when you do sell your business. How does uh, the QBS right now, qualified business small business stock exemption, helps offset some of that gain, right? With with that rule. So big, I guess that earns his name, right? Big impact on all types of, uh, levels of income across the economy. And unfortunately, you know, yeah, Medicaid is taking a big hit if this thing passes, and which tightens up or puts more elderly at risk for long-term care, income challenged for trying to get back on their feet, SNAP benefits and all this other stuff. So the bill has to go through these negotiations in order to see where all that's going to end up. Tax planning for the high income folks and the rich, even the corporate taxes being trying to be extended upwards, along with the marginal tax bracket. So less of your income being captured by a marginal tax rate. Those are coming down 24 to 22, believe it is, in the middle there, right? And 32 to 28 in the top. So so much in the bill, and we're going to have episodes coming up after, when we're talking about this for a while during the live, and also doing some deep dives into the lessons. So be sure you subscribe to the Life Money Balance podcast, the Life Money Balance podcast episodes, or the podcast, so you will not miss a show on all these aspects of tax planning that we just mentioned. So there's so much in the bill right now. And we just got to keep our eye on it, particularly for small businesses, the income challenge, corporate tax rate, estate taxes, exit planning for founders. Student loans is being changed. So for you student loan folks out there, I have some too, but the Dr. Preston wasn't cheap, right? So student loans are being revisited. Some of the public service loan forgiveness is being a challenge, which was stalwart really of the student loan area. Nobody thought that was going to be changed, but it may. Income repayment plans are being taken out. Student loan reform is in the big beautiful bill. So all those aspects of the BBB, as we mentioned, affect investing strategy at the macro level, tax planning, right? Whether you're a small business owner, middle class, high income, and then also the public good, and also the national debt. Okay, that's going to affect long-term bond rates, as far as riskiness is concerned. All this, so we're going to see what shakes out with the big beautiful bill. So stock market surge, big beautiful bill, economic data. We covered a lot. So be sure to leave some comments on the live. Let us know what your thoughts are, so we can answer your questions either through future podcasts. Again, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter or in the YouTube podcast, so you don't miss the lessons and the blogs and the lives that we're going to go and get deep on, and just also keep it real. And if I was to share with you anything to wrap that all up, which is to, not panic, be prepared to pivot if you need to, Stay prepared. Okay, stay vigilant, stay resilient. Control what you can control, because there's a lot of information and a lot of nonsense out in the social media world and everything like that, that you can't control any of that. And some of the events that are going on in the market and in the world are, particularly the world, very unfortunate. The social ills that go on can weigh on you quite heavily, and for those that are involved in some of the social pushback, all right, that it affects households. Protect your space and your energy, and who and what has control of your mind. And yeah, for those faith believers, pray, and also live not everything is doom and gloom either. All right, there's look at through a lens of gratitude, not toxic positivity. But at the same time, what are you grateful for, and what are you going through right now that you can check off your gratitude list and use it as something to be a catalyst for prospering forward, and going after your aspirations and the like. So there's a lot going on. Protect your space, protect your energy, um, promote positive aspects that are going on inside of your life, and then keep moving. All right. All right. Now we gotta. He's taking getting his he's getting his mouth watered for the new a new segment of this, of the Wealth Talk Unfiltered podcast. Look, it doesn't get any more unfiltered than our next guest. So this segment, called Retirement Chops with Pops, and as you see my dad right there. We're gonna have this every first week of the month. So Pops is gonna come on every first Wednesday of the month, and we're gonna chop it up about retirement. Particularly, our firm, Concurrent Wealth, we serve high income individuals. So this will resonate with you. Gen X, it'll resonate with you, right? And those pre-retirees and just retired, right? This outlook, or perspective, I should say, will hit home with you. And I just got through running down all the economic, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's type of stuff. Now we're gonna get into what retirement, pre-retirement, during retirement feels like. And there's a lot of people that struggle with the fulfillment of retirement, the finances of retirement, spouses, adult children, taking care of your elderly parents, and then overall just how you feel as an individual. You've lived a lot of years in life. Even if you're retiring early, it's how are you navigating the individual prospects of transitioning to the next stage of your life. It's a lot, whether it be finances or feeling. So we have a we have a get off my lawn baby boomer. And my pops been married to my mom's 46 years. They helped raise me as a Gen X, and also my sister, who is a late stage millennial. Listen, if if you want to hear about some things about life, then this part of this segment is going to help a lot. And also, too, a part of this segment, we're going to have one called, inside the segment, is called "If I Had Your Money," because me and my pops are always chopping it up. And through the hard work of my mother and my pops, me and my sister are doing well with business ownership, and we got some income coming in, all that type of stuff. We got a little bit of change up in here, and my pops is saying, he said, well, he's always in our pockets talking about, if I had your money, this is what I'd be doing. So for all you folks that got high incomes out there and got money, to you got your assets all correct and all this other stuff, right? A lot of folks simply don't spend, or need permission to spend, or align their wealth with their well-being and all that, and looking over to the left and looking over to the right, and maybe having some self-doubt about how to go about having wealth secured well-being without getting permission from anybody. Well, Pops would say, if I had your money, let me tell you what I'd be doing, because Pops is famously saying, he's like, and I ain't got a lot, but I am retired. So you will hear from a lot of, if you got a little change up in here, right? And if my pops and my moms can navigate retirement through sequence of return risk, portfolio management, finances, pivoting, well-being, how to live and whatnot, and they don't have as much money as y'all, then you should hopefully you could take to some and relate to some of this stuff, right? And it's not going to be about money; it's going to be about life too. So, Pops, I hope I did some James Brown with you. You retired about 3 years ago. You worked 40 some odd years, and now we're not catching you with your Tom Selleck shirt on today, but but we talk a lot about retirement, man. So welcome to the show, Pop.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right. So tell the world we usually chop it up. What 3-4 times a week at least.
At least,
At least,
yes.
right? So when I'm
Right.
when I'm talking to you out there smoking a square out there, something like that, which we'll talk about in a minute, because health is wealth. So I'm gonna ask you about that here in a minute, about your
Man.
story, about recent story. That was funny as hell. But let's start off with fulfillment, Pop, because this is your segment. Folks struggle, to find fulfillment during retirement. What are they going to do with their time? What is their new or aspired identity? And that's very real and that's valid. Um, However, if we could help people get to a more peaceful place with their next transition, then we could chop about it. So you once told me,
What I
I
what
was always
I told
wondering
you about
why. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a lot. You tell me a lot. You once told me I was in your pockets as far as your retirement and what you should be doing with your life, and you had told me mind your own business. But I said, what's your life aspiration? And I asked you this about my whole entire life, and I always pissed at you. It was like, why don't you build a big business or do this or do that? And what you and mom are doing were investing in us. But your main thing you told me was funny as hell. What was your main dream when you started working and you saw yourself in the future, 30 years from now? What the hell is that aspiration? Because it's funny.
well, I remember that question. Yeah, and I had to think about that for just a second because you want to you wanted the real. So I had to come exactly what I was feeling at the time. And at the time, which I still feel now, my main aspiration was not to work. That was it.
That's
I,
it.
that was it. I mean, and let me explain that to me. And this is just me,
Yeah.
right? So when I started working, I started working. I was at Ford Motor Company. We working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. We was cranking them out. Right then, I mean, it was a long day, snow, getting off work, and everything like that, and all that. Right then, I was like, you know what? Hey, I'm trying to get. I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make a living. Got these kids and everything, married and everything like that. I'm trying to do that thing. But hey, the only goal I had was to try to be able to live life and not having to worry about going to work. That was it. So we tried. I tried. We did that. I mean, I did. That was our goal. And when I say our goal, I had to incorporate your mother was in. We talked about all this. Everything we talked about together. So if it was our goal, had to be our goal. So there's a lot of things that had to incorporate with that to make that happen. And that's where all these years go by because to make anything like that, that's like a pipe dream, right? So I went to work. Hey man, look, hey, I gotta get it. Hey man, I gotta get the I gotta get I gotta the grind is real. So and that ain't that grind is a lot. Because when you talk about the grind is real, as I said, earlier we was chopping up one day. I'm like, okay, hey, the grind is real. Hey man, look, kids, you gotta take care of them. The marriage, you gotta work on that. You gotta work on communication. You gotta do all this. And you can't lose a job. You can't you lose a job, you gotta get another job. You get sick, you gotta work on that. Your wife gets sick, you gotta work on that. Kids get sick. Everything's gotta work. So that was my main goal, if you will.
So that's a lot there. And you're right as far as navigating life is concerned, because you put in that work, not only just at your job, but just like in life to get to where you don't have to work. Right. Some people go back to work a little bit just because they, want to and want to do continue to do what they're good at, but it's optional, right? So you you used to say, you used to talk about a lot of it's called, this fancy term is time affluence. It's like now you got a freedom and abundance of time to
Yeah.
do. And you've always talked about, one, just not working, and that could bring you fulfillment. Just simply having ownership, of your time and your choices. And you also told me, you said, you talked about this fucking garage project. You were like, well, when I retire, uh, when I'm not working, I can now start that garage project, that thing, and finish that. So you just finished your garage. How did that feel to you to be able to like wake up and have this choice of time and work on this project? So tell us more about the project and your freedom of time. How did it feel?
Freedom of time feels great. I can tell you that since you put a name on it. And the garage project, simply as the years went by, and I actually start talking about retirement. I said, and many of the guys at the work, we like. He said, man, so what are you going to do? I said, man, look, it may take me. Ironically, it actually did because of COVID. It may take me 5 years to clean out my garage, and they would say, "What do you mean 5 years to clean out the garage?" And my garage wasn't that dirty. I was able to get both cars in the garage, no problem. But I'm like, you know what? If somebody comes along and say, "Hey, what are you doing today? You want to go to lunch? You want to go to New York and have lunch?" I'm stopping the garage cleanup right then, and I'm out. So the garage project may last, and it took me 5 years to clean out my garage finally because stuff kept going on. People won't do nothing. The granddaughter got to do stuff. I'm like, oh, I ain't doing that garage. I'm not doing that, and I let it go. But one day, 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
down the road after COVID, I ain't had nothing to do. So guess what? I opened a garage project, and I finished.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, is what I uh, 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 mean by the garage project. You got things that you have to
Yeah.
do, you want to do, but you retired, or but we can put a definition on it, retired. Uh, I don't feel like doing it today, and it get pushed back until I feel like doing
Is that part of the fulfillment? And it's like, some folks say that they're not going to know what to do with their time. And walking through your journey, you envision yourself not having to work. You worked hard while you were. Always share
Oh
a
man,
story with you
a lot of hours, and a
about
lot of jobs.
yeah, a
Free
lot of
time.
hours, right?
Yeah, a lot of
I
time.
always share with folks, Pop, that I appreciate you because uh, you got working man's feet, and I don't got working man's feet. And the reason why I don't have working man's feet is because you went to work, all right?
You know what? I need to tell that story because that story. Some people need to know
Yeah,
that. I don't know if we could do it right here, man. I like to tell that.
yeah. Let's break it down. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, so why are you doing all that? Why you got your plan, my plan, our plan, working together. So, and you always want your kids to do better than you. I mean, that's everybody's dream. So and down here in Houston, it's 100 degrees every day in the summer. We already know that. That's just part of life. So, as you're in your journey, you started working in the banking business and everything like that. And one day, and I'm trying to go to do these hard hours so you won't have to do that. So you got a little job at working in the office down here, and that was pretty good down here, back in those days and everything like that. And then one day you told me that you wanted to go to Walmart and buy some. Back then we called them brogans, but we call them, they didn't call them work shoes or whatever, manual
Yeah.
labor. And you wanted to do
Yeah,
that,
well, manual labor boots.
manual labor boots, and you wanted to do that and get out of the office and get out of the air condition and go into a warehouse and work manual hard labor so you can prove that you can do it. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude, you working in the office, man. We got you in this opportunity. You doing what we think what you can do. This is why I worked all those hours. This is why I lift all them weights. You know what I mean? And you will tell me I want to get some broke days. What? So anyway,
You took a bet. Didn't you take a bet that I
oh,
wouldn't last long?
I took a bet. I told your mother he won't last a week. You know. And even the people on the job,
But
on that job, they say, "Man, what are you doing here? We have to be here. You got out of the air conditioning, out of the office, out of the bank, and you want to be here? No, no, no. But that's all part of the adjustment, man. See, that's another part of the adjustment. That's part of the grind. You got to work with your kids and let them know, hey, man, look, this is what this is all about. You got to break that down to them. Da 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 da. Sometimes they got to find out on their own, and that's cool. But you got to be there. Either me or your mother got to be there to, hey, break this down, or whoever you can talk to. Man, this is not it. This is not what you don't. Hey, don't be afraid. Don't block the blessing. You get here, man. Take advantage of this, and that's what I want you to do. And you came around real quick. I don't think you lasted. How long did you stay on that job? A couple of weeks?
I think I think it was maybe, I don't know, 2 months, something like
Maybe,
that.
maybe.
I don't think I made 4.
No, man, you hurry up, got back in the air conditioning, man, like you supposed. And you've been in there ever since. Yeah, I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
okay. But you gotta allow for that because kids, they're not gonna, sometimes they don't they're not feeling what you already been through because they ain't been through nothing. So they don't know. And but they got, if you raised them right, they got a good head on the shirt, they got a good foundation. But some things they're gonna have to find out on their own. And you just hope, or like we hope, like, that imaginary brick wall, he might have to hit it, but I hope he don't hit it too hard because it will knock him out. But he got to hit it. So once you hit it and you didn't hit it too hard, you're like, oh no, I can't do this. So you hurry up and went on back in the and got that job. So and
Two
then
things
moved
with that, Pop.
Yeah, go ahead.
So two things with that, which is a lot of folks are taking care of their adult children. Now I boomerang back a couple of times, but I didn't stay at the house very long. Plan, and we talked about that on a previous episode. So for those folks that are listening for the first time, whatever, go back a couple episodes. Look for "Am I ruining my finances for Gen X?" or "Is Gen X ruining their finances for their adult children?" But two things with that, and it goes back to fulfillment. One, you always talk about that, y'all didn't retire. I ain't putting all y'all business out there, but you didn't retire with all this money. You retire with enough to satisfy y'all's level of well-being, whatever that means to you. But fulfillment, some folks that are taking care of adult children are continuing that because they're like, we didn't fulfill, our job. We've talked about this before. It's an investment. You worked all those. You and mine worked all those years. You worked all those years. Is that part of your fulfillment too? To say, hey, listen, we did enough. Now, hey, y'all go ahead and bump your head on your forehead. You got enough lessons. So does that contribute to your fulfillment too while you're, in your retirement stage?
Wow, dude, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. But
Real talk.
I can tell you, real talk. I can tell you how what we felt. First of all, yes, we like our kids to succeed and be better than what we were. But that all started, and I keep saying that, I'll repeat that to you and anybody that asks. It all starts especially when you're raising children. It starts at birth because our parents, they put us in a position better than what they were, and it's up to us to carry it further. But that comes with a caveat that people don't talk about. You want to teach your kids, prepare your kids, but not do it for the kids. And so I wasn't gonna be, once you got 16, 17 years old, you wasn't gonna drive a better car than I was. You're not gonna, and then sitting at my house, I'm going to work, and I'm paying your car note, and your cell phone bill, and give you some what they call back in the day allowance, so you can go party. No, that wasn't gonna work. That wasn't the object. I was gonna teach you, prepare you in case I get out there. Your mom. I worked for United back in the day, so we had some flying privileges. So if we both in the air, we fly together quite a bit. So if me and your mother in a plane crash, you guys had to be able to go on. And if you didn't have any, if we didn't teach you how to do that, or you look at a cell phone bill or a car note, that's been paid. You don't even know how to pay it because we didn't even teach you none of that. So we taught all of that up front, starting from birth. So when you get out there, you have a flat tire, you can fix it. You get you know how to get a cell phone. You know how to get a cell phone. You know how to pay for your own cell phone. You know how to pay for your own car.
Right.
That kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah, survival. Yeah. So does that contribute to your fulfillment? Before we go to the next question, but does that contribute to your fulfillment? You and mom. I mean that because the work day is fulfillment. You envision yourself not working. You got time affluence. And y'all look. There's millions of stories. We're never going to run out of stories on this show. But another part of fulfillment is and it's a mini leg stool is feeling that you've done enough for your children.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, because hey, we didn't get the new cars, we didn't go on no vacation. We sent y'all on vacation a lot. We didn't do, like, for instance, we can either get a new car or back then. This was hey, I'm telling my age now. I'm 68, by the way. Back then, uh, hey, the kids don't even know about this now about floppy disks and computers when they first started and everything like that. But we knew that that's where it's going, so we didn't buy cars or we didn't go on vacations because we had to put y'all in computer school early,
Mm, mm, mm.
and that's what we did. And
Now, uh,
that's a lot of that's very, very fulfilling. In fact, just to touch on that, our fulfillment in life, our success in life was to be able to put all of us that we had in you guys. And
mm,
that's what
mm.
we did. So now, fast forward. Now, while you're doing all that, years are steady tick, 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 ticking. Because next thing you know, you've been on a job 20 years. Your kids are now 17, 18 years old, and they about to embark on their life. But we had to be 100% to our heart that we did everything we can do to prepare you guys to go on in case we was passed away or something happened. And we
Yeah. So now you cool with
oh,
you fulfill you cool with that. So you spend your money and your mom money. Y'all spend it on y'all.
in a heartbeat. I don't have a problem. We still help out if we can, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
y'all doing y'all thing, which we are very proud of. Uh, uh,
Uh,
uh,
Well, let's let's continue on with that theme, which is uh well let's back up 1 second and then we'll go into the segment called "If I Had Your Money" because I told you a couple of stories one time and you were like, "Fool, what the hell are you doing?" That's kind of like Sanford and Son.
yeah,
You big fool. What are you doing? He said, I
you
got
big
money, but if I
money.
had your money, this is what I'd be doing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And if I had your money, but one last question. Uh, Folks, to get them to a level where they're comfortable, even with higher incomes and whatnot, if people say, okay, I need this, this, and this, or I want to be able to do this, this, and this. If my money, some people don't even spend the money that they saved up because they fear of outliving it, or maybe some internal reasons, whatever it may be. But one, the relationship with money, spending responsibly eh, to fund your well-being, number one, and number two, what is that enough number, for folks? And you had a list. You and mom had a list, but you specifically had a list. You was like, I ain't stopping working until I have these, and then I can make it work. What were these?
Well, these. Yeah, you're right about that. Well, I knew, of course, you pick all this up as you go, and that's what they call experience, and you start to and learn life and what it's all about. And get that veil is uncovered, and you start discovering things and understanding things. So my these was after I got, I don't know, shoot, it was about, well, it was probably about maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 years in. I mean, start working 8 or 9 years in. For the first thing was to get a house. That was a big thing. So once about 10 years into that, we like, okay, now we start putting a word. Now we start thinking about retirement and what retirement looks like, what we wanted to look like, and how can we achieve that, and when can we achieve it? All those things wrapped up in one, and what we wanted to do to in retirement for his finances concerned. Well, these things I knew that I could not leave my job and do what we had planned to do, the goal, retirement. If I had a house note, if I had a car note, if I had any kind of credit card debt, any kind of medical debt, any kind of debt at all, couldn't even think about retirement, wasn't going to retire. Just might as well just keep on working. So we pivoted to achieve those goals. So the years kept going. So and then once we got to the point where it was reachable, we like, oh, guess what? Oh, we can pay this house off. We don't have any debt. Now, mind you, while you trying to go to the goals, you still fixing up the house. You fixing up the cars. You supporting the kids when they go into school. You helping them when they come back. If they come back, for advice. All that stuff is still going on. So once we got to the point where like, okay, now they out there on their own, they doing good, they got it. So now let's focus on us. At that point, we went right to hey, let's pay this house off. Let's get out of debt. Let's increase our savings. Let's do this, let's do that. All that, those B's, all that had to before I even think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think those having those like having a pre-plan, worked for you or mom to where you can handle like like investment shocks that we had earlier this year, or having to make pivots, or did it help relieve some of the fears because you had all these checklists taken care of? Did it increase your believability that you could retire, number one, and then number two, retire comfortably the way you want, and then number two, you always tell some story about working with a professional, which happened to be me, but did having those checklists taken care of help you be better to navigate the ebbs and flows of, say, the market and what's going on in the economy? And how do you feel about your confidence, your mom's confidence, when you have somebody to work with?
Well, again, a good question. Well, when I was brought up, financial advisors and things of this sort, that we didn't even talk about that. That wasn't even in our mindset. We didn't even think about that. It wasn't introduced to us. Didn't even know that existed. Actually. So two things happened. We focused on you guys and getting y'all prepared for life. And then once we start paying off the house and accomplish all those goals, guess what happened? All of a sudden, we got a windfall of money. We don't have to rent. We don't have to. The money wasn't going out. We didn't have any credit card debt. We didn't have no car note. In fact, when we used to go fill out a credit application, they used to ask us, "What is wrong with you? Y'all don't have a car note? Y'all don't have two car notes? No, we don't have any of that." So that gave us more money to invest, fix up the house, do these things to prepare us for when we get our age now, 68, 70 years old. Because I wasn't going to be able to do all that then. So then after you graduated, I'm like, oh, he's a financial advisor. I get, hey man, let's chop it up with that. Let's see what he got. What he got for us.
Yeah, what you got for us? Yeah.
So we had a plan. Here you go. I thought we had a plan.
Yeah.
We were comfortable with that plan until we talked to you. After you got out of school and then started like that, a financial advisor, it could be anybody. You just happen to be our son. But once you I tell you a story. Your mother said, "Hey man," she said, Preston's got a plan where you can retire. I said, "What?" He said, "I'm not even going to talk to you about it," because she knew how I am, because I got questions. I need to know what's happening.
You got questions, yeah.
I got questions, and if you got a plan, I got to be satisfied. So when I scheduled a meeting, just like we do with any of your clients. So I scheduled a meeting, and I said, okay, what you got for us? So I had my questions. Because Mama, she had confidence in you. I'm like, who's he gonna call? So I had all these questions down, and I just listened to your from a financial advisor, and you had a plan, and I'm like, Dang, all those questions are answered. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, man, when I got off that phone, shit, I'm out of here, man.
Shit.
I'm out. And then
Yeah, yeah.
and once those questions was answered, because we had already started what I thought, what we thought we can do for our limited amount of knowledge. Well, our knowledge. We didn't know all the financials, and like we just know we had to save money, get out of debt, and let's go from there. Well, once you came into the picture, shoot, all those questions that we didn't know about, you answered. So that was like icing on the cake. I'm like, man, we out of here. I'm out of here. I think I was out of there the next year after we got through talking to you, because we were already ready. We was
But
already
you
out of
had
there.
decided right then.
We it was, I went back to work, man. Man, I had a smile on my face every day because I was getting ready to get out. And
Right,
COVID,
right.
unfortunately, COVID just expedited it because people were like me, because once you become 60 years old, 65, something like that, and you still working, well, that's admirable. That's great, especially if you like what you're doing. That's good. But even if you like what you're doing, you got to. The realization is, from the company standpoint, you're a number and you costing us money. So they gonna get you out
Yeah.
sooner or later. That's just what it is. And I knew that. I knew that way back then. So when I got 61, 62, I'm like, oh, it's time for me to go, because I had a lot of vacation time. I had a lot of sick time. And we even talked about it. I said, man, I ain't gonna be at work, and I'm gonna be using all that time. And they knew that. So they come up with a package right during COVID. Matter of fact, I left right in COVID, and then when they come up with that package, I think I told you, I said, man, look, they didn't get my medical, so I'm not going. You said, Pop, just wait. They gonna come with another package. 3 days later, they came with another package. Well,
So,
I was already ready.
so
I already talked to you,
yeah.
so when they came up with the medical thing, I was out. I left the next day.
You left the next day.
But
Oh
but,
man,
but financial advisors,
we
they
got some more of that story. Well, that
yeah,
goes to show having a plan, knowing knowing what's going to bring you fulfillment, preparing yourself for a transition, being comfortable with who you are,
yeah,
what your household represents, and not
yeah.
seeking permission from anyone. Taking your social security at 62. We just did an episode about that. Working with somebody to help you transition. You hit all those points, so that's good. But there's some more to that story, and we could do it on another episode.
All right
But let's
then.
close out with this.
All
You
right.
mentioned that you've mentioned several times about not having a car note, even though you've had one before, and but once you got rid of it, you're done with it. There's a myth out there that seems like yes, you can live frugally, but I share with people all the time that you and Mom, but particularly you didn't live like a hobo. You didn't
Well,
deprive yourself of doing all this other stuff, right?
well,
You spent your money in order to take care of your family for sure,
mhm.
but you also, you gave yourself something, when you had
Oh
wanted
yeah.
some once and it was the time and everything like that. So let's close with this about if I had your money, because throughout life, we weren't poor by any
No.
means. We lived well, middle class. There were some challenging times, all that, but we couldn't have a long list of wants. But our family never lived like a hobo. If we wanted something and times were good, it
We had to
was it
save
was
up for it.
correct me if I'm wrong. It was your belief that, hey, if your finances are right and your plan is all right, then it ain't no problem for you to go get a couple of little trinkets or whatnot. Am I wrong about that? And that's
Man,
this.
no.
We're in this segment of if I had your money. So if you have, if you worked with that all your life, what would you do if you had that type of money?
Oh man,
About
it's scary.
not only having a plan, but not depriving oneself of life's good things.
Wow. I assume that you mean while you working this plan, you don't starve yourself about, you're going on a few vacations if whatever you can. If you buy a little something, there's nothing wrong with that. We did that. Matter of fact, I used to years later when I got to, I guess, in my um, 40, 45, 50, somewhere around there. I used to go. I was a big guy back then. I'm still, I'm gonna lose a lot of weight because hey, getting old. But back then, I used to go to the store and you know this because you was with me. I turned you on to it because I was like, hey man, I can't buy this off the rack. This rack is not fitting me. So I'm like, I'm gonna get it custom made. Well, custom made costs money. So to do that, at the time you had to save up for it. And if you want to look nice, man, and if I can't afford, if I don't like the way I look on the rack, I'll go get it custom made. And if I wanted to go buy a car, I didn't ever buy a new car. I bought a used one, but it looked like, my cars always look good, and I'm straight. You know what I mean? And I kept them together, and I couldn't afford it. I think I bought one car. I guess it was at Fleetwood. I had a car note for about, you know, a couple of months, and I couldn't take that. You asked me, was I anti-car? Yeah, I'm anti-note, man. So I paid 2 or 3 notes, and I wouldn't pay it off, and I ain't had a car note since. But then again, I knew what I could get by doing that. So, but if I had your money, see, like that's what I'm talking about. Now, cause I think you was going to school. I don't know, it was a master's or the PhD. Well, one of those times, whenever you got that lecture, and I told you, you said, "Pops, I'm gonna get rid of this car." I said, "Wait a minute, dog." I said, "Hey, man, no, man, that's like $14,000, man. You go ahead and pay that thing off, however you do it, and keep it rolling." And then when you got out of school, I was like, you still got the same Lexus. You still got it. I was like, you came to me. You said, I forgot what it was. I think it was whatever you was doing some work on your car. I'm like, man, I said, man, if I had your money, I'd fix it and keep it rolling. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was forced to do that. You have an option. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of things like that came along. I was like, hey man, if I had your money, like I think you was gonna, when you first started moving, you was gonna like, man, I don't want to spend that $500 to get that U-Haul and do that. I said, oh my goodness. No, dude. If I had your money, I spend $500 because that $500 gives me time. You don't want to be where I can't. My shoulders are jacked right now because I had to do a lot of stuff because we had to. You don't have to. You just cheat.
Well, I was back then. I ain't cheap now. Like you said, you just recently said too. Hell no. Oh man, hell no, man. Matter of fact, you told me the other day. Said, speaking of that, Lacey, said if I had your money, I keep that one, and it's about time to get another.
Man, look, it's like here it is, man. You know what I mean? I'm trying. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what's good, man. Pop, man, this is cool. Matter of fact, there were some people in the audience, so we stayed a little longer. But man, if you don't mind, man, I think people want to hear more about you. So next month we're gonna run it back.
Hey man, run it back, man. Hey, man, look, I'm retired.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Well, appreciate you, love you. All right, everybody, that's our show for the day. Yeah, I appreciate you, Pop. Yeah, we love you too.
All right,
everybody. Love having you. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate you. I hope you got some. I hope you got some love from Pop today. He'll be on every first week of the month, and then we are always chopping it up here on Wealth Talk Unfiltered, giving you the real and the real deal. So subscribe to the show to make sure you don't miss an episode. And until next time, we'll chop soon. Cheers.